and better themselves and gain more perspective. And I really think a lot of it too comes from like entitlement.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
I shouldn't have to suffer anything. I should never have to be offended. I should never have to be uncomfortable. I should never
and like a lot of it comes from that whole mindset. And it's like, dude, if you grew up in North America, it's like you are in like the global 1%.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
like you really have nothing to worry about. And it's like, but that's just the nature of humans, you know? Like humans will bore quickly of, you know, like dance, love, and peace.
Yeah.
Like there always needs to be some, like there's some, I don't know if it's biological or some deep-rooted psychological factor inside of us, but it's like we always gravitate towards some kind of self-destructive nature.
I think it's both, and I think it's almost like something that kind of comes about in response to the fact that there isn't any real problem to solve. Like, nothing immediately, like, chomping at your heels, you know? I think there's something in us that desperately needs some kind of crazy dragon to slay. You know
and
what
that's
I mean?
what I mean, though. It's like, you know, it's like you're in this like land of plenty and God, honestly, there's opportunity and opulence, comparatively speaking. I mean, like the air and the fucking waters. We can drink tap water here. You know, place on planet Earth, you can't drink tap water without fucking dying. Like, can't do that in old country. Like, you know, I've been there a couple of times, bud. So, like, it's this sense of entitlement. Yeah, it's like what you said. It's like people can't bear to be like offended. Discomfort is a completely foreign concept, and it's like, yeah, you'll be chasing kind of these ghosts, these figments of what you think they are, whether it be socialism or communism or like some ideal, and something's always wrong with here. And I love. And by love, I mean hate. I hate the way that people usually do this. They cherry pick capitalism too.
Yeah.
They cherry pick capitalism. They love the way that it's provided this abundance for you, but they hate that the price that it came with was, you know, sometimes it was the industry might be dirty. The industry might degrade the environment, and it's like.
Or past atrocities.
Or past atrocities that have led up to here, which, like, once again, I'm not condoning, but it's like you're reaping all the benefits, and like. I can go up to probably any 18-year-old, and take away their electronics, take away your cell phone.
Yeah.
Let's cherry pick that. Get rid of that. Because you know what? Without capitalism, bud, you couldn't afford that fucking thing.
And you also wouldn't be able to think freely or speak freely or write freely or do something like this. We're having a conversation between each other, open and honest, free-flowing, posting it on the internet. Whoever the fuck is crazy enough to listen will listen. And, like, it's just like everyone has a platform for expression. It's completely unparalleled.
Exactly.
Like, I can't imagine how the older generation feels seeing how the world's changed. I don't even know if a lot of them comprehend it properly. It's like, I don't even know if any of us comprehend the hell is going on and where it's going.
I think, once again, kind of like to touch back on another thing that we talked about, it's like, you know, the way that it's going to change and those reactions that are going to come from all of these changes that are happening now, like, we haven't seen the end of them, and they're going to go into weird places that, like, we couldn't even fathom. Like, 10 years from now, we'll look back from here and, like, we won't even know how we got to where we're at in 10 years from here, just because of, like, the nature of that chaotic kind of, oh man, this is new frontier, man. Like, we really don't know what's coming up next.
I think that's part of the kind of, like, I mean, all these things, we're only touching on, like, single aspects of these grand, like, questions and issues going on, but I wonder if part of the political polarization going on, or just people's, like, we are going through this weird phase of chaos as a culture, and I wonder how much part of it is just like we actually have no idea, like you said, where the hell it's all going. And it's because it just can't be comprehended. Like,
and that's the other thing too. It's like, you know, this state of plenty, we've never had it before.
Of peace too.
This Pax, like fucking terra firma, like this peaceful earth. Like, it's never been this peaceful. Like, what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And the church is dead. And it's like, where do we go?
Yeah.
Well, like, where do you go as a spiritual being? What, like, in even like the commodification of even like things like academia. Mm-hmm. Like, academia is a fucking joke now, you know? Like, it's not really like, I don't know. I'm a guy that holds an undergraduate, and not to say that like going to a post-secondary institution is bad for you, but it
can be today.
It's a shadow of its former glory in terms of a place of higher education and a place where, like, it was supposed to produce the mind where it's able to take both sides and stop for a minute and consider and listen.
Yeah.
And it's not producing those types of people anymore.
Well,
I think it's failed at its ultimate mandate, and that's It's supposed to create critical thinkers, and it doesn't have a lot of critical thinkers coming out.
Well, it's because it's indoctrinating people. It's like when I was at NASCAD, the difference between the people around me when I was in my first year to my fourth year is phenomenal. It's because the people who arrived on day one had some bright ideas, and they had this kind of concept that they were there to learn, and it didn't take more than the first year for a lot of them to be entirely swayed by anything that they were told. It's like nothing really made them want to think critically. They just wanted to lap up what they were told and then regurgitate it. So it's not that it's producing people who are willing to think, it's just producing people who want to fall in line, because I think that there is still a need that people have that isn't, the church is dead, but it doesn't mean that what we used to get from it has left us.
Yes.
And the necessity we actually have for those kinds of things.
So people are still very much inclined to be told what to do and to be told how to think and be told how to be, and so they just
like the
reflect
ideology
it and emulate it as much as what they possibly can.
Yeah, and I think
those their stock in the wrong places.
Those questions are so big, though. It's like hard. Yeah. It's hard to fill like that thing where it's like reality is just this redacting thing. Like the unknown keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
and it's like we'll know everything. It's like it's so much more complex than that. Like it's like God isn't just this thing, and I'm using that term very, very loosely right now. It's probably a bit loaded, but it's like whatever that thing of the concept of God is, or a higher power, a higher being. It's like it's not just this redacted being that's like shrinking as we learn more as a human race, but it's like it's so much more complicated than that. Like it fills a void inside us in like a spiritual or even a mental sense that we can't just forego.
We can't live without it.
You can't live without it, yeah. And
I had this idea. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
just like because I feel like it could conceptualize God in so many ways. It could serve so many even utilitarian functions. Like just when I was working this week on a roof, I was feeling exhausted because I haven't roofed in like proper for a long time since it's winter time now. But the thought occurred to me of like, because the idea being like God is always watching. It's like you could conceptualize it as just imagine or pretend that every single person that you admire the most is watching you every moment. And then how would you act? And I was like, how would I act right now if everyone I admire and look up to was watching me do this? It's like, that just lit a huge fire under my ass. Like it served a psychological function, right? Like it made me inspired to, even though it was just kind of, you could say it was just like a fucking thought experiment or something. But the fact was I had a real impact on my performance at work, even just having that sense of meaning, because it's like someday people I do admire are gonna watch what I do, and I better be on my game all the time, because like I don't want them to catch me with my pants around my ankles or something, right?
And it's like there's a couple of things that like it's interesting on that point, because like there was a thing in National Geographic back in the old days when I used to work at a place called Sobeys. Back working the late shift, I used to always just grab random magazines and just read them when I was waiting at the till until the place fucking closed down. Anyways, there was a National Geographic magazine, and it was like the top 100 things that were the most important human conceptions. And the first one was actually animism.
What's that?
So it's like where you're able to animate things, like it's like a way of thinking where it's like,
this is Dave.
Yeah, like I'm able to conceptualize like the river has a spirit inside of it, and it's like now the future exists. I can I'm the future seeing ape now. It's like you're able to think outside and greater of yourself. It's like you're almost like you can take yourself outside of oneself, which is crazy because now past and a present exist. You're in time now. It becomes like this thing of your reality.
That's like the birth of our abstract thinking in a way.
Exactly. So that's kind of why they're just like, none of these creations could have existed if like we couldn't even conceptualize this. And it all started with like, and more of the archaeology continues to develop. It's like, wow, it wasn't warfare or like starving that like kind of drove us to become like human and settled. It's like religion. Like it's first temple. It's no longer the first fortress anymore. It's like, because, and it's funny because then like you have a place like National Geographic where it's like, because once we were able to conceptualize these higher concepts, wow, we're the future seeing ape now. We can predict the future. We can reflect back on our past actions and meditate on them. And like this whole other universe of our being, which like no other animal possesses. Like we have this conscientious way of thinking, and this sentient like being that there's nothing else like it, right, on our planet at least. And the other thing was Alain de Botton. I think that's how you say his name. He's a really good philosopher, and what he writes about a lot is there's certain things that religion provides to the human society and the human psyche that can't be replicated by anything else. Like religion in and of itself serves like a very fundamental component of like, once again, how you temper yourself, how you develop yourself. How do I act in a way that's like in accordance and that we live in a harmonious society? Because we agree on certain fundamentals, you know, of being and of acting. And he does magnificent talks on it. They're well worth the 45 minutes, half hours.
Sweet.
Just like transferring some of those concepts and trying to find like secular ways to implement what religion did do, because religion was really good at building communities. You know, like Sunday Mass was a great way.
Religious conversion is actually still the most successful way of you know, pulling alcoholics out of the abyss. Like AA. It's religious conversion works better than anything else we have right now to get people to stop drinking.
It gives people a commonality that is something that in our very individualistic society we're starting to lose. It's like, unless, you know, you come together with your friends or you find like an extracurricular activity that you kind of share with other people, there isn't the same overhauling thing that keeps everybody together, except maybe the law.
Well, and that's not enough. That's not enough.
There needs to be some sort of like hierarchy of values that we can all agree on and act in accordance with. And I think that exists already because it's acted out in the form of chimpanzee troops and packs of wolves and any other social animal. There is some sort of hierarchy of behavior and stuff, and it's embodied, and it's embodied in us too, and we just have to kind of get on the same page about things. Like, and in the West, we got on the same page about, like, you know, the individual is important or innocent until proven guilty. You know what I mean? Things like that. I mean, you take individual corruption into account. It's not always acted out in that way, but in the law, it states that because somehow our philosophical and religious thinkers of the past came to the conclusion that the individual had something divine about it, like something divine about the sentient, conscious spirit that we are embodied, and that you regard that with respect even if it's on trial for murder. And it's like, how did we fucking come up with that shit? That's just crazy.
Like, you know? Once again, that's a really big concept, and like, and that's the other reason. Once like those mechanisms fall away, it's like you leave the individual to do that, and you know, like, and
that's where ideology can just swoop in.
Whoa!
It's like
fill the vacuum. I mean, like, you know, we're living in like this place, and it's like, you know, it's weird. Like people have a hard enough time half the time figuring out what the fuck they're gonna wear for like the day, coming out of bed, and what the fuck is my outfit going to be. Like, people still need advisors in various different professions because it's like they don't know what the fuck to do. All the information's there at your fingertips. It's called the internet, kids. And it's like a lot of the times people are still too lost because it's making these decisions is a very hard thing. And now you're gonna put this mantle on people where it's like, define your values.
Well, that's why it's so...
That's like a lofty goal.
The problems you put forth there, so that's one of the things that's miraculous about our human social system, is that we can outsource it. It's like you can be heavily involved in finances, and I can be heavily involved in other things, and I don't have to worry about that other thing, and I can come to talk to someone who is more educated about it than me, is going to invest more time learning about those things than I am, and then we all happen to fill ideally, we happen to take our individual places in the world, and that it facilitates... What was one of the things Peterson said? He was like, there's a hole in the world that's exactly your shape. If only you would, you know, like, listen to yourself, you know, answer that call of the soul. Where is it you want to go? It's like, and we all offer these different pieces of the puzzle, and that's how the whole thing functions. It's like, it's miraculous thinking. It's like, hey, the individual, every one of them has something important to offer. Let them pursue that thing, and then it'll just work out somehow. And look around. It's working out somehow. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like... I'm gonna grab some more beer.
Of course. Do you pause when we do drink breaks?
Just fucking...
Oh, jeez. I'm just gonna use the washroom then very fast.
That means lights on the inside.
Lights on the inside, right? You just let it roll. Whole time. Getting this dank light.
A little like mood music.
Reality of life.